Hey, welcome to my Travel Wins podcast, and today my guest is Travis Luther. How are you today, Travis?
I'm fantastic, thank you.
Excellent. Travis is the founder of Luther Media. Let's start with the big parent company, I guess. And then, so under Luther Media, you have The Law Father, you have Ballet Ads, you're a pillow guy with Queen Anne Pillow Company. I just like saying that. and Trial Line, and you're also an author and speaker. You got a lot of things going on. How did all that get started?
Well, I've been an entrepreneur for about 25 years now. My first licensed big boy business, as I say, was a skateboard and snowboard shop up in Pullman, Washington. And I started that when I was just 16 years old and had it wrapped up and finished by the time I was 17 because someone broke in and stole everything. But, I was just a small town kid. I came from a single mom of 3 boys. She had me when she got pregnant with me when she was 15. And by the time she was 19, she had the 3 of us and was on her own. So, unfortunately, we were on welfare and government assistance. And I don't know what it was. There was just something inside me that realized that probably my path out of poverty was going to be entrepreneurship and being my own business owner. And so that just was deep seated in me from an early age and really motivated me to try a lot of things. And I didn't have a lot to lose like other people, and so I wasn't afraid to kind of risk it all over and over again. And it was not I was not very successful, but I kept plugging away at it, and then finally had some successes and wins. And I would say probably about 15 years ago, everything really came together for me at the formation of Luther Media. And I think what I realized was I wasn't specifically or narrowly passionate about one thing, but I was passionate about launching and building businesses. And so that's what I've been doing over the last decade and a half.
It's very rare, and I don't claim to know everybody, but I'm old. And it's very rare to have somebody that was in a punk pop band, who started a Ballet Ads, and now, with Law Father, it's like, hold on a sec. I'm reading it, going, what? How did he go from a punk band to providing? Describe Law Father, because that's kind of a big step for you.
Yeah, we started. So when I moved to Denver, like I said, about 15 or 16 years ago now, I very quickly met my wife, and she was a young lawyer. She had just started as a lawyer, and I was in I had a little media and advertising business, and so she would be on a listserv where people would post, hey, do you know anyone who can help me with a brochure or a website or something? And she would just kind of send those inquiries to me. I would follow up with the lawyers, and I realized very quickly that there wasn't a company that specifically served the digital and media needs of attorneys. And so I kind of pivoted at that point to trying to be the guy who could build lawyers' websites or make videos for lawyers, or eventually, that turned into rent them equipment and consult with them on how to put media presentations together for trial. And now we have a team of trial techs who sit with lawyers during their trials, run their demonstratives and their exhibits, and we've kind of come to be relied on for helping attorneys come into the current multimedia landscape.
Do you find it's been for the older attorneys, it's been a struggle because they just fight the new end, or are they pretty much open to it?
I think 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I think I spent a lot of time trying to convince baby boomer era attorneys that it was important for them to bring in media as part of their trial presentation. But, over the last few years, we see it's really more millennials who are starting to hang their shingle and start their own law firms. And I don't really have to convince them of much. Yeah. They're kind of my generation, and more often than not, they're calling me because they know they need it versus me calling them to ask them if they're interested.
That's a good sales call when they call you.
That's right. That's right.
I always like those calls. I get a few of those. They're like,
they
really need your product. I'm like, okay, I can help you with that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Is it a conscious decision by you to stay kind of relaxed? You're not the stuffy lawyer type, and you don't even present that on your website and that kind of. I mean, you have action figures, which is pretty cool. I might try to steal that somehow from you, but
I'll tell you, I'm not going to claim to have come out of the box that way. What happened was when I first started the company, I didn't know the legal landscape, and I didn't know what to do, and I knew I wanted to be safe and cautious. And so, a lot of my early websites and my own marketing was, me in a suit or something like that. But as I become more sophisticated in marketing itself, I started telling the attorneys, look, everybody who's marketing is in a suit talking about justice and you deserve compensation. So let's look at who you really are and what sets you apart from other law firms and start to focus on those unique attributes, because that is actually your competitive advantage. And then at a point I just say to myself and my own team, we're not even doing that. We're not even following our own advice. We're trying to, be safe and cautious. And what are we? And like, as you alluded to earlier in the interview, I was a touring musician.
Yeah.
The people that work for me are artists and videographers. And I said, we need to capitalize on that too. We need to stop pretending that we're straight-laced, stuffy people. And let's take our suits off, show our tattoos, focus on the fact that we're artists and creators and storytellers. And let's stop hiding that. Let's just be who we are. And it was pretty cool. Once we did that, what was already a good business got even better.
Well, yeah,
people really connected with our authenticity.
I was going to say, I see a lot of the biker ads, and they're biker guys, and at least they show it now,
Yeah, exactly.
Just a suit, So I totally agree. I mean, it is the new age of marketing, I guess.
Yeah, right. The new age of marketing is not to try and figure out and pretend who you are and what message you want to get out there. It's just to be yourself and let people who share your values and who are like-minded, let them come to you,
Come along for the ride if they want it. When I started the podcast, I got a lot of advice from different people. Oh, you should do this, or you should do that, or, and I'm like, I can't do that because I can't pretend to be that. Hi, welcome to the Travel Ones podcast, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
That's because I can't do that sustained. I can do that for 20 minutes.
Yep.
But, 2 years later, I'm still just trying to get through my shows.
Yeah, I don't think
do you have a bird?
Really. No, there's just a bird out here. Since we're doing this over the phone, I wanted to get out, get to where the reception was better, so I'm outside now. There's plenty of birds.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's the benefit of being in a nice weather community.
That's right.
It's springtime somewhere, almost summer. The other thing I really dug about your website, and I had to read it a couple times, was your guarantees.
Mm-hmm.
Not many companies, especially social media marketing companies, would do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, another thing that, sets us apart. I know that, a lot of times in marketing, agencies that want to say, well, we don't know, and so we can't guarantee everything.
Yeah.
But, I looked at my team and said, I mean, there are some benchmarks that we can guarantee. We know if we spend $500 of our clients' money that X number of things are going to happen. So at the very least, we can set a bottom end for what we guarantee is going to happen. And it also helps us, stay on top of the market.
You want to talk about having your crew stay on top of things. Tell them it's going to cost them $500 if they don't make that change.
That's right. That's right. Right.
Guarantee that change gets made.
Yeah, no doubt. And then I think, early on when we started the company, our competition were, one or two monolith, giant corporations. And, it was a lot easier for us to speak to our customers personally and address their concerns right away than it was for these big corporations to do it. And so, I thought that was just another nice way to position ourselves as the company who's going to deal with you and who cares. But at the same time, we're also not the company that's going to take every single person who sends us an email or walks through the door.
Yeah, absolutely. With your speaking engagements and your book writing, I noticed you've dealt with say it wrong, metropolitan state.
Yep.
How important when you talk to entrepreneurs about business travel? Is that a subject you ever broach? Just out of curiosity.
Business travel.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many companies. Like if you would have told me, hey, you're gonna be a sales rep for a clothing company, I'd be like, okay. Oh, by the way, you're going to be on the road 120 days a year. You're going to spend weeks on end in a hotel and airports. I would have been like, oh, I never thought about it like that.
I think, I was an adjunct professor down there for almost 4 years. And I think, the advice I'd give to students, mostly where my sweet spot was as far as speaking was helping businesses go from $0 to $1 million, which is really a different strategy than going from $1 million to 5 or 5 to 10. And so I think, the advice I try and give and the experience shares I give from traveling and doing these, conventions and workshops and stuff is you gotta make sure that it's going to count or that it's going to matter. And it's one thing to be there and to meet people, but two, you got to have a plan for what you're going to do, how you're going to, foster those leads after you meet them. You can't get there, shake hands and leave. You've got to have a funnel, if you will, for nurturing those leads and making sure to follow through and follow up and understand that it's a long game, right? Like the more expensive, and I know there's data to back this up, but the more expensive a product or a service is, the longer it's going to take for the decision maker to come around and give you a yes or no. And so you've got to be patient and persistent to make that travel, make hay at the end of the day.
Totally agree. Well, even like a lot of musicians get into they want to write songs, they want to make music, they want to do those things. Then they realize they have to be on the road to make money.
That's right. That's right.
I used to feel like, I used to tell people, oh man, I'm on the road probably 110, 120 days a year. And they're like, wow, that's a lot. Then I met a musician. He's a rockabilly guy. He's on the road 220 to 250 days a year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, excuse me? Like, holy, but he goes, I've never had a real job, but the payoff is I have to be on the road. So I don't know, do musicians get into it going, oh, I don't want to be on the road that much?
Well, I think what you find is, when you're a professional musician, like I was, it is a job, right? Yeah. I mean, you're looking at your cost, your profit. One thing we had to pay a lot of attention to is our health. If you're out there trying to have fun and you think being a rock star is about going out, playing a show, drinking, and then going home with a bunch of girls, I mean, you're not going to survive very long at all. That may sound fun for a week or two, but when you're drinking every night and getting in a van and traveling and sometimes sleeping in a bed and sometimes sleeping on the floor, like you got to be very conscious about your health and about your work day and your schedule and being able to get out there and perform. And then when you're done performing, to sell records or whatever the case may be. So it's, it's fun for a little bit, but when it's a job, it does start to feel like a job and you got to take it seriously.
Yeah. I mean, and just scheduling, we talked about technology, with the musician, Robert, and I'm curious, when you were going out, cell phones were probably around, but not heavily, not smartphones. When you're traveling with Ultrafine.
Oh yeah. Like I remember having a phone on one tour. I remember that the phones had minutes, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And thinking, okay, well, if I have 30 minutes left this month, what calls do I need to make? I mean, it was a different world for sure.
Well, that's, just booking rooms, booking flights, getting gas, finding a gas station, finding restaurants. It's so easy now. At least on my phone, I just type it, hit restaurants and poof.
Yeah, that was all stuff we had to do, beforehand. I mean, I remember having, tour itineraries, right? Which were, this is where you're going to stay. This is where you're going to play. This is where you're going to eat. This is where you're going to get gas. I mean, you didn't do any of that on the fly. You had to, calculate your miles and calculate the miles per gallon and the gas prices and, make sure you had enough to get to where you needed to go the next night.
All the joys of being a rock star.
That's right.
What advice do you give entrepreneurs? I grew up kind of this, not with the same background, but with the mentality of always looking for different opportunities. And I think that was just how I was. I don't know if you're born that way or just culturally how you were raised, but now it seems like entrepreneurship is a cool thing, but it wasn't always. I mean, why do you think that? Why do you think that changed?
Well, I think that, with the advent of the internet, or the growth of the internet, the speed of the internet, the cheapness of the internet, coupled with cell phones, I think that what people are finding is that people who have inside them some interest to kind of do it on their own or support themselves or not work for a company are able to do that a lot easier and for a lot less money than they used to be. And I think that kind of speaks to the advent of information products, right? So, at the end of the day, my book is a information product on how to successfully, move and retire in Mexico. That's something that you want to do. And that's a product I could generate through doing research online and interviews online and, from my basement if I wanted to. And so that hasn't always been an option.
Correct.
But the balance on there is that it doesn't come with the, $250,000 a year salary and the health benefits and the 401k either. So, but you got to know what you want out of life, right? And for some people, it's $1 million and a home and a Mercedes and all that. And for other people, it's the freedom to not have an alarm clock, to get up when they want, and to have their workday be shorter.
And it's interesting that you're in the law profession, because many lawyers I know are lawyers now that don't necessarily want to be lawyers.
Right.
So, and I had a guy on my show, Dr. Nee Darko, who's a doctor, who's an emergency medical doctor, who's now looking at doing other things. So he's interviewing other doctors who do things. One doctor became a screenwriter and became an advisor for TV shows on the medical. So lawyers are the same way. It's interesting because what you just said is so true. So there are just some people that want to do certain things.
Yeah, but I think the unfortunate trap with doctors and lawyers, and I know a bunch of both of them, is the the financial aid costs that come with putting yourself through a professional degree kind of trap you into practicing a lot longer than you'd like, because you got to pay those student loans off. So that's another little piece of advice I give, prospective entrepreneurs, is you also might want to think about whether going to college or not is going to accelerate those efforts or get you trapped into debt that's not going to allow you to fulfill your dreams. I do believe that there's value in some colleges and some courses, but I think other times if you're not going for a specific reason and you don't know what you want, you're just going to go because your parents told you to or someone else told you to, you're probably doing more damage to your ability to have that lifestyle you want than you think. Because my wife still pays $1,100 a month on her student loans, and she hasn't been in college in some time, and that's a big chunk of change.
You're right. I mean, that's so now you're a lawyer. You just passed the bar. You're in debt, probably close to $100,000.
Yep.
And you might end up with a job that you go, God, I don't even like doing this.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
which can happen, in any profession with any degree.
Well, I'm not $100,000 in debt when I find that out. Hopefully,
but $100,000, that's a lot of money, no doubt.
Yeah, and you definitely get some lawyers that do it because they have to, or they feel they have to. So,
for sure.
That's always the interesting thing about entrepreneur. I talk. My daughters are 25 and 26. Both went through college, and they're doing good. But it's interesting to talk to their friends and all that, because it's just like they're like, "Oh, I'm going to do this." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yep.
Okay. So I try not to parent too much. It's hard though. I like that. I told my daughters when they were in college, I go, for 18, 20 years, I had to be part of your life every day, and now all of a sudden I'm just not. It's hard to just turn it off.
Yeah, I've got 11 and 13-year-old boys, and I'm not looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, wait till you're being told, "I got it, Dad." It's like, what? What do you mean you got it? I was just wiping your butt at last. No, I guess I wasn't last week.
That's right.
Do you like part of what you do now is lecturing? And
Yep.
Do you enjoy that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do the speaking engagements that I want. It gives me an opportunity to travel, which is, a big passion of mine, and meet other people. And, it also helps kind of keep me on the forefront of what's going on in the industry and what's coming next, especially, when there's exhibitor areas and exhibitor booths and stuff. So, I get a lot of value out of traveling and speaking. And, you can't BS when someone's asking you to be the expert about something. You've got to stay up on your topic. I always said, if you want to learn, teach, right? Because you gotta know your stuff. So I enjoy it for that side of it as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask, and I have no idea how much lecturing pays, but is it something you quantify where you go, I'm going to get X amount? It's almost like marketing to a certain extent.
No, it really is. I mean, unless you're a Gary Vee or a Tony Robbins or something along those lines, I mean, I do have some friends that are making a living, as professional speakers. Sure. But for me, it's really about, generally promoting whatever I have going on at the time. And an interesting phenomenon that I found over the last 3 years is that people like me are being asked to pay to speak at some of these events and conventions because of the value that these organizers now know comes, right? So they're saying our audience will pay to come hear this person, but this person will also pay to talk to our audience. And so they're squeezing it from both ends. And, that's kind of given me pause, but as a musician, it wasn't, it also wasn't that unusual to pay to play, as we'd say. A venue would say, hey, we've got a built-in draw from our neighborhood, and et cetera, et cetera. And so why don't you pay us to play here?
Wouldn't they give you, you could sell your merch there, though, right?
That's right. I mean, and so it translates to kind of the business world these days where they're saying, hey, you can come speak, or, we have the arena. You pay us to be inside, and then we'll let you sell your stuff to everyone who's here.
That seems just wrong, though. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is. It is what it is,
Do you think, how do you think that the new social distancing laws are going to change lecturing?
Well, I mean, I certainly haven't been invited to do anything over the last few months, and some of the things I was going to do have been canceled, and same thing with other friends of mine who speak. I've tried to do some of the online Zoom workshops and online Zoom keynotes, and I have to tell you, I appreciate the efforts of people who are doing that to kind of keep, business folks connected, but, it doesn't feel the same. So I don't know that this is going to destroy speaking, because I do think that there's something wonderful about those interpersonal connections that we really can only, get from hanging out with each other. So I suspect that will come back. We'll see. I've got some stuff booked for this fall that keeps getting pushed, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I agree with you. I think that's going to be, it'd be like doing stand-up comedy on Zoom. It's like, you don't have any feedback, and you can't look at 500 different screens to see who's laughing or who's not, or I don't know. That would be weird.
Yeah, and I think, speaker friends that I know, they struggle with it too, because you're absolutely right. I mean, a little quip here or there, or a question and answer, keeps things rolling, keeps people engaged. And I've seen some stuff where, people I know who do great live shows are asked to do it online, and it's kind of cringeworthy. You're like, oh, I know that they're not comfortable doing this, and I know they're better than this, but they haven't figured out how to do it online.
No, at least until we get the VR world going.
Which I just bought, actually. I just picked up a virtual reality headset last week. I'm curious about it.
I did some stuff at Best Buy. And the guy had the thing. I'm like, holy, you can't even. And I did another one. One of my guests has a PBS show, and she jumped off the Macau Tower for a bungee jump with the VR goggle on her head. And so she goes, "Here, put it on." And I put it on, and I was standing on top of this tower. Look, and it's like 1,200 feet, And then she jumped off, and it was like, it was completely surreal. I mean, because it was stereo, had audio and all that. Right. I literally thought I just jumped off of the Macau Tower. I was like, holy Christ. So,
well, I've been to the Macau Tower in real life, and I wouldn't want to do it in real life or in virtual reality. That thing's massive.
Right? And I was just like, are you? And it was so weird because like you look around, like you can look down, left, right, up, and I'm like, all of a sudden you start getting weak in the knees, and you're like, I'm standing in a restaurant right now.
Right.
It's like your brain knows you're standing in a restaurant, but yet your eyes are telling you. So I think the VR thing is going to be interesting.
It is going to be interesting. I feel like I need to take a Dramamine before I do some of it because, it tricks you.
Yeah.
But I am curious how VR may be able to bridge what we see in the 2D flat Zoom versus wanting some kind of interpersonal connection. So, my interest in virtual reality is not games at all.
No.
It's the social aspects and the ability to organize and share ideas. That's what I'm most curious about.
Well, I'm curious, like for shopping. Yeah. I mean, you can walk into a virtual store, pick up a cowboy boot, turn it, look at it. I mean, you can't try it on. Or a shirt, to be able to, I don't know, it's just going to be, it could really change.
Yeah, no doubt.
The world.
No doubt. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we've...
Well, I've looked...
Go
ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead, Travis.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm obviously as an entrepreneur, I'm thinking about that too. And, as a pillow owner, I'm thinking about, is there going to be a QVC for virtual reality, where I can stand there with my pillow for 30 minutes and show off the fine detail of it. But the VR camera setups and stuff are pretty expensive. I think to get into it just for a single camera is about $15,000, where, any guy off the street can go to Best Buy and buy a 1080i or 1080p video camera for about $150 right now. So it's a little cost prohibitive at the moment, but I think it definitely has some great potential.
Well, that's why I look, I'm trying to think, if you go back 20 years ago, right, 2000, cell phones, smartphones, if you would have gone back 35 years ago and showed the young Pete, hey, you're going to have something in your hand that's more powerful than any computer you own by a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to be able to talk to people around the world for free now because we don't have minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And FaceTiming, and then looking up traffic patterns in different cities. And your phone's going to tell you where there's an accident, and it's automatically going to give you a new route to save you time. It's like, what? Get out of here.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, it seems like yesterday you were wiping your daughter's butt, and I was printing off maps on MapQuest. It's just nuts.
I had to show my daughters how to read a real map.
Yeah.
Like I go, okay, you're stuck here. Find this. And they're like, what do you mean? I go, well, go over here to the index, find section 6, G3, and then go over to the map and then line it up, come down to that square, and then you got to go in that square and find it.
Well, it's funny, if the zombie apocalypse comes, we will see all of these millennials just running around in circles in the city while people our age are able to grab a map and find our way out. It'll be super funny.
They'll be screwed. I flew into DIA, and I left my phone in my wife's car. She dropped me off at the airport. Mm-hmm. It was going to be literally like a 36-hour turnaround. So I fly into, I don't have my phone now. It has my boarding pass. It has my flights. It's got my hotel information. You know what I mean? So I left it in the car. I get to DIA, and I'm like, I got to call the hotel to get the shuttle to come pick me up. So all of a sudden I have to find the payphones, and there are payphones at DIA in the baggage claim. They're free, which is awesome. And then I had to call information. Then I had, it was like old school.
It was like living in the 90s.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, I've been here, done that. Everyone's like, what did you do? And I'm like, I used a payphone.
Yeah, gosh, good luck finding one of those, though, right?
Well, thankfully they have them there. I was like, there's got to be phones here. There has to be.
Probably one of the last places.
Yeah, it's just so true because they don't make money anymore.
Yeah.
What do you tell? What last bit of information do you tell entrepreneurs before they get started? What's the big takeaway that you try to give them?
Well, one of the things that I had to, I don't want to say learn the hard way, but a realization I had to come to as well is, if you're entering entrepreneurship to make money to support yourself, a lot of what young entrepreneurs do is they get passionate about something. For me, it was skateboarding or music or something like that. And I think I'm going to go start a business focused completely on skateboarding or music. And, the truth is I was not able to support myself and was not very successful until I was able to stop focusing on my passions, but start focusing on problems, right? So to build businesses around real problems that people have, and that those problems are so bad they're willing to spend money to fix them. Yeah. And so, I had to, there's a lot of self-help stuff that tells you to, follow your folly and follow your dreams. And if you follow your passions, you never work a day in your life. And, to some extent that's true, but, to build a business that, supports yourself and employees and staff and gives you the 401k and the medical benefits and whatnot, a lot of times you need to make sure that you're solving a good problem. That doesn't always mean that you're following your passions. I think the perfect storm is when you're passionate about something and you found a problem within that passion that people are willing to pay money to solve. I think that's a good place to be. But like I said earlier, for me, it was finding problems that I could solve, while also being the right person at the right time. So, being a technology guy who happened to be married to a lawyer, that was perfect for me. Being a marketing person who knew the valet community and valet companies, that was perfect for me. But there were a lot of things I tried because I was passionate about them that, I just never made any money at because they weren't real problems.
It's so interesting you said all that, because that's a lot of the same advice I gave my daughters. Differently, not as eloquent, but yeah, because I remember going to, it was a lunch with my daughter. She was just graduating college, my youngest, and we were at a nice restaurant here in Los Angeles, and I go, look around. I go, nobody has it figured out.
Yeah.
I go, I don't care if they're 20, 30, 40, 50, or 60. Because, if you're 50, you're going, well, I don't like the career I've made for myself. What can I do to do something different? If you're 40, did you get the house yet? Are the kids happy? You got to start worrying about paying for college. You know what I mean? Everyone's trying to figure something out. And I think that the misconception that a lot of colleges, they're like, they get out of college and they're like, oh, I'm just going to find a job and life's going to happen. And I'm like, God, it just doesn't work that way. That's right. And it's interesting because I have one daughter who works in the entertainment industry. I go, most people, if you pursue something that you enjoy, you might be broke, but you'll be happy doing it. Other people want to work just so they can make money so they can go enjoy the things they want to do. Mm-hmm. So they might not necessarily like their job, but they like going on vacations, and their job pays them enough so they can go on vacations, and they focus on the vacation versus what they do every day. So it's very rare that you can do both. Right.
Especially if you don't know what your passions are, or if you haven't developed your own operating system or value set. I think the worst thing that you can be is just stuck and floating. You know what I mean? I think the biggest problem people create for themselves is they do not do enough self-exploration. They don't ask themselves enough times a day, am I happy? What makes me happy? And what do I want? They just trudge through the day, hopeful. I think hope is a sickness, right? Hope doesn't get you anything, right? Hope doesn't answer any questions. you have to be willing to like dig into yourself and like I said, ask yourself multiple times a day, when do I feel happy? What do I feel good doing? And what do I want? And I think a lot of times you'll find out that you're not happy when you're in that $100,000 car. You're not happy in $1 million mansion. You're happy when you're walking on the beach with your friends, you know? And I think too many people come to that realization too late.
Well, it's also, you know, I got very good at golf in my 30s. I was a single-digit handicap, and I'm like, wow, you know. And so I went to a golf pro at the range I used to go to, and I go, what's the difference between a good amateur and a pro? And he goes, 1,000 shots a day.
Yeah,
I go,
that's right.
I go, what? He goes, the pro will come out and take his 5-iron and hit 1,000 balls a day with it. Then the next day he'll come out and hit his 6-iron, 1,000 balls with just the 6-iron. Because he needs to know what that club's going to do when he's tired, when he's fresh. You know, he'll try it on different lies. And he goes, it's a job. And I'm like, see, I just want to stay with my good handicap, and I wouldn't want to hit 1,000 balls a day.
Right.
You know, so.
Yep.
Music could be the same way, right? I mean.
Yeah. And even then, and I'm sure even like golf, you know, I saw some of the most incredible musicians I'd ever seen in my life, and on the road, and nobody knows who they are. You know, there continues to be an element of luck to success and timing, and you know, sometimes you can't hit enough golf balls to go pro.
Yeah, yeah. I always tell people life is a lot about timing. You know, finding the right woman to marry, the right friends, the right job, you know. Everything kind of sometimes you have good timing, sometimes you have great timing, and sometimes you have shitty timing. So,
that's right.
and I think as an entrepreneur, you better get used to having all of those.
I was going to say, yeah, and I've had all of it, but I think the important lesson that comes out of that too, you know, another thing I tell young entrepreneurs is just because you failed at something doesn't mean you're a failure. Oh, no. And you know, myself, I had a period of time where I always associated my business failings with me as a person being a failure, and I say no. I mean, you look at, like we just said, timing, who your neighbors are. You know, there's so many factors that also dictate success that you got to be careful not to beat yourself up. And that's why successful entrepreneurs are the ones who don't quit after their first failure, right? But keep going. I'm the same way. You know, I'm continuing to try things and work on stuff. And you know, as successful as I've been, I could have another website and blog about everything I've screwed up. You know, I mean, it's just I've done an equal number of dumb things and lost money. So it's, you know, that's the way it goes.
Right, dude. I just with my podcast alone, my first guest, who was a friend of mine, the first time I tried recording, it didn't record, and I didn't know it. The second time, he was in a location that the connection kept cutting out. So then we had to do it a third time just to get my first episode.
Yep.
And I was like, and I still haven't listened back to it yet, but I just, it's cringe.
But a lot of people would have stopped and said, oh, that's a sign I shouldn't be doing this, you know? And I kind of say to that attitude, good. I'm glad there's still a lot of people like that because it gives me a lot of opportunity.
Yeah. Quit all you want. I'm good with that. Well, that's, you know, that they talk about PodFix, because I know you have a podcast as well.
Yep.
And did you start your podcast as just an extra piece for your existing business?
You know, I started it as a test project, actually. You know, it's something I've started to pick up more this year, although COVID has made it a little difficult. But, you know, I started it as a kind of a test project. I wanted to build a podcast studio in my office so actually lawyers could come do legal podcasts. So basically they could have a scenario where they just come sit down and we would handle all the recording and editing. I had such a fun time doing it myself. Someone asked me to kind of do it to host a show, entrepreneurship conference. So I did it as part of that. Got a really great response because it's got a comedic angle to it, you know. And so I was like, well, kind of, you know, I'm in a position in my life now where people are interested in things, and I think it's fun. I can kind of pursue them. So I pursued the podcast really just as a fun thing I enjoy doing. Right. You know, it's about entrepreneurship and it's about business. But like I said, it's got a funny slant, and It's got a kind of a comedy quiz show about business. And people like it, so I'm continuing to pursue it.
There you go. I really, obviously, I like that format. So, hey, appreciate the time. One last question I was going to ask you is, you mentioned you have 2 kids. How do you balance your work life? As far as, obviously, if you have a really important lecture coming up, but oh my God, it's on my son's birthday or party or whatever, how do you balance all that?
Well, they're always priority one. My kids and my wife are priority one as far as scheduling goes. I probably 4 years ago now, reminded myself, hey, entrepreneurship for you is part of having the freedom to do what you want. And so we let the nanny go. I started taking them to school in the morning and then shortening my work day to pick them up. If I have to travel for something, I find, childcare for them. And but generally I look at my calendar and ask myself, is this going to get in the way of, what I promised myself I wanted out of entrepreneurship? So you practice that for a little bit, and it's not really that hard. People have a lot of anxiety about, well, God, if I don't do this meeting when this guy wants it, I'll never get it again. And I had a little bit of that myself, but I did find if I said to somebody, hey, Steve, do you mind if we change this from, 8:30 on Tuesday to 10 on Wednesday? It was never a problem. The problems are always in my head, not in any prospect's head or any event's head.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
So, what's I just want to thank you for the time. And what's the best way for my listeners to follow up with you, see what you got going on? How do you like being?
I would just go to travisluther.com. I've got everything there, and happy to speak to any of your listeners who want to talk more about anything on that website. But yeah, travisluther.com.
I will make sure to put the link on my website. So, dude, really appreciate the time though.
Yeah, me too. This was great. I appreciate it, Pete. Thanks so much.
And maybe I'll hit you up when I come back to Denver.
Hey, that would be awesome. I'd love it.
You got it, buddy. Appreciate the time.
All right.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.